Greetings, everyone. Man, this has been quite a journey. This is day 29. Okay, actually, it's January 29th, 2021. That means we got one more day to go. Okay, so check this out. I was thinking, I've been sharing a lot of information, but I really haven't been talking to you guys. Well, I have been. And what I realized is that there's some things I'd like to share about motivation and all of this kind of stuff, right? Now, I got started in this journey in the way that I am now because I was determined to not suffer and to not just witness suffering all around me. Because I figured, hey, I was given this body, it's a phenomenal design and it's just perfection, right? And it's like, you know, when man makes a vehicle and they tinker with it and what have you, and they make sure that it runs well, you heard that thing of it purrs like a kitten or whatever, or, the engine is just so smooth and quiet, no tick, 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 none of that kind of stuff, right? So this vehicle is way better than all of that. So I'm like, well, if this is such a superior design, then it must come with a manual and it also has some fail safes. And when maintained properly, it should run pristine for, you know, indefinitely, right? Because when you got a fine-tuned machine and you take care of it, you oil it, you give it the right fuel and what have you, you take it for your maintenance checkups and all of this kind of stuff, and you do the maintenance, you know, you extend the longevity of that machine. And it can run like practically like brand new for, an indefinite period of time. But if you don't take care of it, then it'll break down. You'll have to replace parts and what have you. If you don't put oil in it, your whole engine will blow. If you don't put gas in it, it's not going anywhere. You put the wrong gas in it, it'll go and then it'll start clunking and all this kind of stuff. So, what does that have to do with this machine? Simple comparative. Everything around you that you see is basically a metaphor for what's happening with this body. When you look at a car, it has an engine, heart. It has air filtration center, lungs. It has all of these kind of things, right? It even has more than one kind of fluid. Your body has more than one kind of fluid. You know, you put in something and it burns the fuel and it burns and it creates exhaust. You put in fuel in here, you create exhaust. You have emissions. Same thing. So everything around you pretty much is kind of mimicking the physical body. When they didn't have sanitation in urban centers, as people were coming together and they were creating urban centers where you have a large number of people populating, coming together and whatever. And if they didn't have sanitation, people would have disease because you got to get rid of the waste. Okay, so they talk about how penicillin was so great and all this stuff, but at the same time, they created sanitation systems on a municipal scale that allowed for the removal of waste so you didn't have the accumulation of toxins and bacteria in the environment that created and maintained the disease condition. So that pipeline, that sewer line is basically just like your digestive system. It processes waste and it gets the waste and takes it out of the body, takes it out of the municipality, you know, and all of this kind of stuff. So everything around you see mimics the body. So it seems kind of obvious that if you're living in a part of the town where the dump site is, and if there's a chemical factory and there's water running through, and they're dumping all of this toxic waste in there, that a lot of the people wind up with cancer. We've heard of Cancer Alley in a number of different locations throughout the country and other parts of the world. Same thing happens in the body. You have to make sure that when you get rid of the refuse, that you get rid of it properly. Also, you have to make sure that what you're processing is comparable to a sustainable ecosystem within the body. So that's what this whole process is about. Now, I've given you quite a bit of information, and it may seem like a lot, but I'm going to tell you, this phenomenal machine is complex and simple at the same time. Each of its parts has a specific job and it needs certain things to do that job. You give that particular part what it needs and it will operate pristinely. You give it what it needs to cleanse itself, and you give it what it needs for it to replenish itself, and it will operate fine. They've put actual um, cells of tissue cells in petri dish and done experiments where this guy he would come in and he would put the nutrients on this petri dish, and this flesh would live in perpetuity. I'm talking about if you take a piece of skin off your body and you just let it sit and it dries out, it dies. But if you put that same piece of skin in a petri dish and you give it the nutrients that it needs, it will continue to live in perpetuity. You've heard the story of Henrietta Lacks, the black woman who they took her body parts and started experimenting with it because her cells didn't die so fast. And they're still replicating her cells now to this day. She's from up in Baltimore, I believe. And this is, I don't know how old she was. I think she would be nearly over 100 by now had she survived. But the medical industrial complex is still making money off of her cells because they're constantly regenerating her cells so they can do experimentation. So these are the kinds of things that that the body's capable of: regeneration, almost life in perpetuity. They did an experiment back in the 60s where people stayed in this dome and they had all of the food and everything that they needed and what have you, and they recorded their health and all of the little intricate numbers and what have you. And what they determined that if they had stayed in that environment, that pristine environment, they would have lived 150 years easy and would have been in good health at the time that they were ready to transpire. So we can live a high quality life when we give our body what it needs. And those things are very simple. And this is what it is that my intention is to provide you with the awareness thereof. You've heard a lot of these things time and time again. Sometimes you got to hear stuff until we can listen. You just, it just has to keep bombarding us or whatever. Excuse me. So my goal is for you, each of you, to be able to live a high quality life and be able to seriously enjoy life. You know what I just realized? I've been so interested in getting my point across to you guys that I forgot to say, welcome to day 29 of the 30-day Master Your Life Masterclass. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And, the conversation has been on the way, but, I wanted to share those thoughts because ultimately it's about what you receive and what you do with what it is that you receive. Whether or not you get appropriate information and whether or not you take the appropriate action. Ultimately, it comes down to it. What are you going to do? Remember I said it's your body, not mine. This one is mine. This one right here belongs to me. And I'm taking care of it. I may do a little frilly stuff every now and then because, hey, sugar is the number one drug on the planet. And everyone, for the most part, in the Western culture anyway, has a sugar addiction to some degree. Mine is minimal. And I try to limit it to, having mine sated by fruit and veggies rather than the processed sugar. I may have a vegan cookie every now and then. I'm going to let you know that. More than now. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys for the most part. Now, there's a principle. The other thing is in this process, what I've been doing, I've been looking at various aspects of how to maintain the body and also what it is that keeps things going, and looking at the foundation. Now, I have a foundational principle that I deciphered when I was looking at the life of Bruce Lee. Um, his story was that he went from master to master, trying to find the ultimate master martial art that so that he could just beat everybody. And he would go and learn a northern style, a southern style, a eastern, all of these different styles, and some of them would cancel each other out. Because a snake, might get pecked to death by a crane. You know, a rat might get squeezed to death by a snake. So all of these different techniques, you know, come into combat in different ways. So anyway, what he found was this: the masters who study these animals and mimic these animals and their movement would practice these movements until they got good at them and what have you, and then they would apply. And ultimately, there were certain principles involved in the movements. So in order for them to really access the power of those movements, they had to practice, 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 practice. So what he learned in the long run was that if he wanted to have the ultimate practice, it wasn't to find the one martial arts. It was to find a way of no way, as he called it. But basically, he wasn't stuck over here. He wasn't stuck over there. He wasn't stuck. He found the fundamental principle of a fight was you knock your opponent out as fast as you can by whatever means necessary. So he worked and increased his speed exponentially and his direct targeting of whatever particular body part he would have to attack to subdue his opponent. And that was his expertise. So the foundational principle, and I call it the principle of mastery or the mastery principle. The mastery principle is this: find the foundational fundamentals of a thing, practice the foundational fundamentals of that thing. Practice some more until you become good at it. Then you practice some more. You become really adept at it. Then you practice some more until you master that thing. Then you have mastered the thing. You don't master anything without practice. Period. There's some things you can master in short order depending upon the nature of the practice. Hence the breath master technique. I can teach you to master the breath within 2 minutes, but you don't really master the breath until you practice, until you get to that point, to that level. And in order to maintain mastery, you have to maintain practice in those same basic fundamental principles in order to be considered a master in perpetuity. That's what I want to offer you guys, an opportunity to master life in your body. And it is not that difficult. Everything that I've shared with you, I'm 100% sure makes sense because it is very simple. And the thing of the nature of the mastery principle is this: it is simple. Once you assess the most basic fundamental aspects of a thing, you're assessing something very simple. When you look at these different complex scenarios and what have you, where, let's take martial arts for this an example. They're doing all this flying, this and that, and whatever. All of those things came out of or grew out of a beginning. And the beginning, they started with the most basic, fundamental, foundational aspects of whatever the movements were. Then they expanded. I started with the breath, and now I have an entire series of movements and so on and so forth, sound, vibration, and all this that grew out of that. But I had to start somewhere. And as you start, wherever you are, when I meet you and we work together, we move together, you're going to move exponentially because I've done a lot of the heavy lifting. I've deciphered a lot of the foundational principles and I've brought them together. And that's what I share with you. That's why, you can move further along in your health and well-being in a lot less time. A lot less time. I can take years off of your life in a matter of months, possibly even days. well, let me say add years to, take years of suffering off of, but add years to quality years. Actually, you can do that. All I can do is give you information and then you apply it. So we're coming to the end of this scenario. I'm going to run this over and over again. So what I've determined is this. I'm going to leave this up on YouTube so you can access it. And I want you to bring your groups and your family members so that you can have watch sessions, watch parties, and sit down and pick apart everything that has been shared and discuss it. Then when you're ready to go to the next level, contact me because every 60 days, starting February, every 60 days, I'm going to start another 30-day process where for 4 consecutive Sundays or Mondays, I'm going to start with Sundays. 4 consecutive Sundays or Mondays, I'm going to have a 2-hour workshop. It's going to be every 60 days. So I'll be taking a break in between, doing some other things. On one 30-day period and next 30-day period, I'll be engaged in that. And when I do the four sessions, each 4 hours, each of those 4 sessions is going to be 2 hours long. After that, we're going to be having talks and conversations throughout the course of the following 7 days until the next Sunday rolls around. So we're going to stay engaged. And depending upon how this unfolds, we'll have some group chats, gatherings, maybe online, so on and so forth. But each session, I want to have a minimum of 15 people or maximum of 15 people. We'll see how it goes. 15 is my target. So I put out on Facebook and Instagram a call out, a flyer, and also on my website, information about the Master Life Master Workshop or Master Life Workshop. So go to my webpage, www.breathmastera.com, and you'll find that information. You might have to go to one of the tabs up top. The second one right beside home. Anyway, on my Facebook group, follow me on Facebook, Breathmaster Aaron Motley. Follow me on Instagram at BreathmasterA. And you'll get that information. And then you just send me a direct message and we can get you enrolled in one of those sessions that'll be happening every 60 days. Okay? And you can bring your group, bring your family, bring your friends, bring your associates, bring your organizational scenario. If you got a group or organization and you all want to embark upon a health journey with a serious coach who's going to make it plain and simple, I'm your guy. If not, one of my people that I would train would be a guy or your girl, man or woman. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. I just wanted to have a basic talk with you guys before this is all over. I got some more stuff I'm going to share with you tomorrow. And remember, another principle is the cumulative impact. Everything that you do repetitively will have a deeper, fuller effect. If you're doing things that are going to harm your body and you do them repetitively over a period of time, they're going to break you down and cause you all kinds of issues. Remember, the toxic waste dump up the stream and it comes down and you got cancer at the bottom of the stream. You can correlate that to colon cancer and cancer throughout the body. So you don't want to do those you don't want to put in those toxins that are going to filter through the body and come out and cause cancer. In turn, high quality nutrition is going to make everything pristine and clean, and you will be living in a Garden of Eden because internally, that intestinal flora will be just like that, pristine and just fully functioning. And your life will be so much better. That's what I wish for each and every one of you. So, Breathmaster Aaron Motley, your global community elder, signing off.